Okay.
You were going to tell us how you met your husband.
My husband and I knew each other our whole life. So he was from Rocella and I'm from Riace, which the villagers go Riace, Bologna, Rocella. He went to school with one of my cousins, so we knew each other our entire lives. He had been married previously. I have also been married previously. Unfortunately, that didn't end well, and then we reconnected via Facebook. So,
Just your first marriage?
Yes.
Was that in Australia?
It was here, yeah.
To an Italian?
No.
Was he an Australian?
No, it was a Greek boy.
Greek?
Yeah.
And how long was that?
Oh, no, it shouldn't have. It lasted too long. How's that? So it lasted long enough to have my two eldest children.
Right.
I had it was good when it was good. Yeah.
And you both met after the first marriages?
We both did, yeah. So funnily enough, he had a daughter and had named her Michele after me, which I didn't know about until sort of we had reconnected. So there was always something there, but I think...
And when you say you met on Facebook, what, you messaged each other?
Yeah, so we friended each other. This is back in 2012, so this is before all the other stuff that's...
Yeah.
Seems like it's there all the time, but there wasn't any WhatsApp and there wasn't any of anything. And it was on Facebook, and then we Skyped each other one night and saw each other sort of for the first time in about 10 years. And his face came up on the screen and we looked at each other and I knew he was my person, but I didn't say anything. And neither did he. We just kept ringing each other every day, incessantly. And then I was sort of heading over to Bali for, I suppose, a little bit of rest and respite. And I didn't know that he had never left Italy before. So he'd done sort of Milan, Calabria his whole life, that was it. He actually got a plane ticket to fly over and surprise me. So the day he was meant to leave, he found out that he needed a passport. Didn't have a passport, had a ticket. Anyway, it ends up that the Marshal from where he was a friend of his, and he was given an emergency passport based on a live, I don't know what. I remember being in my little villa in Bali, and they rang me, "Oh, hello, Miss Michele, there's someone here for you." And I thought, oh God, who's here? So I was all sweating out and thinking that someone had followed me here. And I walked out, and it was him. And he walked up to me, and he wasn't as tall as I thought he would be. He was Calabrese, so maybe he was 175. And he just kissed me from head to toe, not in any other way other than to tell me, "I've flown all this way, I love you." Didn't speak a word of English either. So hadn't left Italy, gets on these planes to get to, I don't know how, to this villa.
That's a modern equivalent of the proxy marriage almost, isn't it?
He just looked at me and he said, "I love you, I don't know if you love me."
Facebook and meeting for the first time.
We didn't mean to, it wasn't an intentional, not on my behalf, maybe in his end.
That's good. And you got married?
So he flew me to Italy to meet his daughter, and we did backwards and forwards for a couple of years. And then we decided we wanted to be together. We weren't fixated on being married. We were fixated on being together. So he rang me one day and he said, "I've sold everything." So my husband had 2 restaurants in Milan.
So that was
27
occupation
years.
as well.
He was a chef.
A chef?
Yeah, he was a chef.
What, in Milan?
In Milan, he had restaurants for 27 years. He came from probably one of the poorest families that I know, and he did things that he should never have been able to do. But he was such a determined human.
And where did he train? In Italy? Or did he so in Milan as well?
Yeah. He left home in the middle of the night, age 13, on a train, and went to Milan and never went back. He was very embarrassed of where he came from.
Did he know people in Milan?
No.
And why did he choose Milan?
That was where everyone was going. The 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s, and that's where everyone was going, and in his mind he was determined to be the saviour of his family. He was going to be the one that
And obviously economically there was economic deprivation, but that's what motivated him.
Yeah.
Did he have siblings?
He has still living 2 brothers and a sister.
Are they still in the Baese or are they?
No, so Alberto works in one of our restaurants. His sister Eleanor, I think she's now in Siracusa. Her husband is a soccer trainer. And my other brother-in-law is in Poland. No, the Polish girl. They moved to Poland.
Not living in Poland.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
so
Everyone's
the
dispersed.
Calabrian diaspora is very wide, but still.
Yeah, it is, yes. Yeah.
And so when did you settle in Australia with your husband?
So we were forced in some way because he was too old to apply for any other type of visa other than a partner visa. And to hit that criteria, you have to be living together for 2 years. We hadn't been, but we've known each other for a long period of time. We put an application in. I had been very sick that year and he'd have me look after me. It ended up, we put the application in and we were told it would be rejected 100%. The day before the application went in, I found out I was pregnant with Mia, our daughter. So we popped that in with the application and ended up being an accepted application. Yeah, so that was 2014.
Yeah. And were you Unica, Cucina? Did you set that up after?
After. So he was working as a chef here on the peninsula and he was head chef for a year at a restaurant down here. Loved it, and then he said to me, we're going to open a restaurant. And I said, I'm not a restaurateur.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, we'll just do it. He was just one of those people.
Yeah.
He would get excited about something, everyone would just get excited with him. So yeah.
So how long have you held the restaurant?
I've had this now for 8 years. So we found the space in 2016. It was just a shell with dirt out the front and nothing. We just had this little vision that it was going to be a trattoria with all of this amazing food. But I don't think, look, he left this earth 6 years ago. I don't think he had the vision to make it what I've made it tonight.
Well, I was going to say there's music in the background, which is Calabrese music, which we love.
I'm very proud of, yes.
Is that also part of the cuisine? When it's more
it is
southern
for me, for my husband, and this will probably resonate with a lot of people, including my mum. They don't like to talk about where they were from because they came from such extreme poverty that it just hurts to talk about. And so my husband was embarrassed of where he was from, very embarrassed of where he was from. Every time we would go back to Calabria, he would end up with migraines and in hospital. Because it was such, I don't know, it was just a torture to go home.
Was it the economic conditions or the social environment?
And I had heaps of friends there. It was just the reminder of where he was from and the torture of, and I see it in my generation. There is a complete generation here in Australia, and I don't know if you would agree with me, but I notice it down here on the peninsula, that our language, our dialect and our culture was lost on the generation of 40 to 59, I'm going to say. On the peninsula here, it was embarrassing to say you were Italian. It was embarrassing to say you were Calabrese. It was embarrassing that your parents had to work as hard as they did to make you, or to give you the opportunities that we've all had now. And most of my friends, I took my best friend back to Calabria in 2018. She's from Brancaleone, her mother was born there. She grew up with her grandparents here on the peninsula and from a very big family that most people would know. Doesn't know a word of Italian.
Well, and it's not just a peninsula because
I think it was just a generational thing here where it was lost.
Well, from the 50s right up until the 80s, basically.
Yep. It was embarrassing.
The emphasis was on assimilation.
Yep.
And to assimilate, you had to speak
English and speak it well, and not have curly hair and monobrow.
You had to, you had to not conceal, but put on the back burner your origin.
It was, people were concealing it.
Well,
down here they were.
Even the concept of being a new Australian, which I think is offensive, quite frankly. Because, so what I'm saying, it's not just here in the peninsula. I think that was widespread, and I agree with you that the language was one of the things that was neglected first, because if you didn't speak Italian or Calabrese,
correct,
what you were. But I think hopefully that attitude has changed.
It's changed a lot.
I think the younger people now are actually wanting to reconnect with their roots, and the first thing that they've got to do in order to reconnect is to learn the language, because without language you can't have culture.
No, but even like the dialect, it's embarrassing to speak dialect. Hang on a minute, it's an entire other language.
It's not a dialect.
It's a
written language.
Correct.
Exactly.
It's an entire other language. And when people say that...
That's one of the other myths that
Correct.
not only here but in Italy.
Yeah.
They propagated to denigrate not just Calabrian but Sicilian.
Everywhere. Unica, Napoli, Sardinia. The language, I went to Sardinia last year. I don't even understand what they're saying, but it's an entire other language.
And what I say, Italian is really Dante's dialect.
Correct.
And it was only the fact that Mussolini decided that that was going to be the national language that it's now universal in Italy.
So I'm very big on my children knowing our dialect before the Italian. The Italian they'll get.
And to be congratulated. So you've set up this business, and you've not been in the restaurant.
No, I had to learn everything. My husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2017 in September, and I had worked in the business, but I had a very small child at the time, and so didn't work in it full time. So he had to download 27 years of information on me whilst he was unwell, and I was looking after him and my 3 little kids. So they were 2, 8 and 10 at the time, and I had to learn how to run a restaurant. And he had faith in me that I would do it, and I would do it my way, but he would give me the grounding, and he did.
And your parents, were they assisting you?
No, not. They were trying to get me not to do this.
Right.
Yeah, they were very much against this.
But why? Why would they not want you to do it?
I don't think they understand why I want to do this, and I don't want to do this for money, and I have never wanted to do this for money. And the biggest reason I want to do this is to maintain my cultural heritage in a meaningful way that it's demonstrated through music, food, language, storytelling. And it was such a big thing for me to do that for my kids because we've got no one here. I've only got my mum and dad. My dad's 90 this year. My mum's 73. Once they go, that's it, you know.
Are they in good health?
They are, if they touch wood, they're in great health. But once they're gone, what happens to all the stuff? What happens to the salami? What happens to the sauce? What happens to the chilies? My dad threads all these chilies for me so I can hang them here. The fresh bay leaf.
You've got it here in the restaurant, actually sitting in the restaurant today. And also I've noticed you've got photographs.
Yes.
Are they photographs of your family?
Yes, they are.
And you still make trips to Italy?
I go home 2 or 3 times a year. I'm leaving next Sunday again for a month. I have an intention of starting tours to Calabria, to the Unica. There's little to no tourism there. And I think that I want to take people who dine here in an immersive experience so they have a better understanding of what I'm on about. When I talk about our cultural festivities, when I talk about being culturally Catholic, not church Catholic, it's a very different thing. In those little towns where they celebrate their saint and there's this huge love and passion for these festivals. And it's not centred around the Catholic Church. It's around the belief...
It's not religion, but it's more communication.
It's more communication,
observing the
correct, and it's just these, different things that you would eat.
Why do you think that tourism is not as prevalent in Calabria as it is in other parts of Italy?
It's not prevalent on my side of Calabria because there is the other side of Calabria where unfortunately there's other types of investments that go on. And Tropea has become a wonderful hub. A lot of soccer players have gone there, put a lot of money in there. I think its proximity to Sicily as well, maybe that's what has made it more fun. The government in Calabria and in Italy as a whole is not funding these types of things because I don't know whether we're a lot more protective or slower to get on the bandwagon.
What I think is interesting, you say there is now a policy of turismo di religion, which is a program designed to get people to go back to their roots. But what I don't understand really is how they can expect that program to succeed when people who will go to Calabria, unless they go to places like Capel, unless they've got a car, transport's
That's what I was about to say. There is no, we don't even have a train stop anymore.
And the infrastructure's non-existent.
No.
And from what I've seen, I don't think the regional government appreciates that fact, but you can't expect people to go there and visit if they've either got to drive themselves or they've got to be part of a tour, otherwise they can't get around. And the beauty about Calabria is it doesn't matter whether it's on the Unica side or on the Mediterranean side. There's beaches everywhere, and mountains are only 20 minutes away. And I'll take
well, I was, try and tell people that are Italo-Italiani that come here. So they were born and raised here, never gone back to Calabria, and I'll tell them about La Sila. And we have a ski resort in Calabria. What do you mean?
I don't know people go skiing.
My cousins go skiing fanatically every year whilst looking at the Ionian Sea. People don't know that.
But so it's interesting that you want to do this, and I think you're right, that unless there is support from not only the regional government but the local governments, I don't think it's going to really succeed. In a sense, individuals might get 10 or 15 people.
That's correct, and that's the only thing you can do.
And that's all you can do.
I concur.
But whether that's going to attract, my own view is that Calabria's going to be the next Puglia. Puglia was as neglected as Calabria, tourism-wise, and then all of a sudden someone discovered it, and someone obviously decided that they've got to put in money to help people enjoy themselves when they're there. And now more people are going to Puglia than they have.
I don't know. Back in the 80s when we would go, it was full. You couldn't get to the beach in Riace. You could not step onto the beach. It was full. Something happened in between, and I wasn't living there at the time to understand. But we used to have a train stop. Now the train doesn't stop there. There was buses. There was a lot going on. Something happened in between to stop it.
Well, but that's the other interesting fact. That you wonder what the Calabrian politicians who actually sit in the National Parliament.
Well, Lucano does now from Riace, so he better do something.
Because you look at trains. The Freccia can't go into Calabria.
No, but why? And that's, it's a big thing in my mind.
But that's been known for years. Why haven't they agitated to say, look, let's update the railway system. Let's increase the railway system. Talking about Tropea, if you want to get to Tropea, there is a rail line that goes basically down from Naples into Reggio. But then if you want to go from Tropea to a town which is inland,
forget about it, no car.
There's no train, no bus.
No, there's nothing.
Even within the small towns, there's only a bus service occasionally, and that, in my view, is just not sustainable in terms of increasing.
There's been no growth there, I will say, from my own bare eyes. Something happened in the 90s and it hasn't moved on.
Well, it's good that you want to do that, but does that mean that you're going to close a restaurant, or you're going to do
I'll close the restaurant. I'll do both. So when I head over, it will be a 2-week experience. I have spoken with people in Calabria, so it's not just me fantasising from here. So I have some really great connections on the ground over there that have done this type of thing internally. They haven't done it with externals. And so...
Well, what's interesting, there's I think 1 or 2 American people.
Yes, there is.
And one of them I think is not even Italian. She's an American lady who landed in Calabria and decided that I can make a living out of bringing Americans out here.
And there's another lady who brings Canadians in. She brings them into Southern Ireland.
So maybe that's what you're going to do as well.
Oh look, I can't wait to go.
And I've got to say, you mentioned earlier that you were a singer, and I've got to say, I've seen you dance at that Antero, and you appear to be a natural. Why didn't you follow that?
I wasn't allowed to. My mum didn't let me.
Why? Because
you don't make money singing.
Make a living.
You don't make money singing. But I do. I love our folk music. I hated it as a child. It was the most embarrassing thing ever. But I have the nights here where the Unica project here and a few other people.
They're a great band.
They're amazing. They're amazing. And this September, I'm going to have a band here from Italy, from Calabria.
Who?
Sono Calabrese coming here.
He was here last year.
He was, and I'm going to have him here at the restaurant. So I made great friends with
me
them.
know.
I will. So it'll be the 27th of September.
Okay.
So book it in. I'm having them here. So
That's great. He'll be great. Well,
Yeah.
he must be coming over here
He is.
for the Tarantella Festival.
They're coming over for Segmento. Yeah. They're doing all of that.
Which
so,
is good.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that your husband had to download 27 years of experience, and did you absorb all that, or have you just...
Look, I did, and it's always important to listen to someone who's come before you, I think, in any field. And he was a really good base and indicator of what it takes to run a restaurant, to be a restaurateur, and it's not easy. It's one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. I've even been in the kitchen here, so I did it here, in our kitchen here. I'm not a chef, but I will say his energy came into me, and off I went and chefed as well. But it's evolved into something else. This was not a Calabrese restaurant when my husband was with us. Yeah.
Well,
It was Italian, but it wasn't Calabrese.
All his training was in Milan.
Yes.
Yeah. But you mentioned that he fell in 2017.
He did. Yeah.
So from that year, you've been running it.
Yeah, on my own. Yeah.
And then obviously you would have struck COVID.
Yeah, that was fun.
Tell us, because a lot of people, they read stories in the paper, but they don't really hear the people who experience it.
Yeah.
How drastic was the change between pre and post?
I lost a house.
Right.
That's what happened. I lost a home during COVID because of the difficulties of being shut down, having our businesses shut down continually. It wasn't just a lockdown, it was lockdown after lockdown after lockdown, which made no sense, especially in this area. Here we're classified as Melbourne Metro, we have nothing to do with Melbourne Metro. In hindsight now, I think a lot of people can see it with different eyes. At the time, I understand the fear that people have of the unknown. I think I fronted it in a very different way because of my husband's illness, and I was thrown into the unknown in 2017. In an instant, we were called from 1 minute we walked through a door and we were fine, to walking out and being told my husband was terminally ill, and we just had to get on with it. And we just got on with it, and we kept the restaurant running, and I had a 2-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and I was nursing my husband. But we have the attitude to life, and maybe it is the Calabrese background and those nonni of mine, but you just get on with it. And I think when COVID struck, I wasn't afraid of dying, and I wasn't afraid of the illness. I was more concerned with the way it was being managed, and a lot of my friendship groups were concerned with it, and so we came upon a discussion of launching court action against the state government.
I read that at the time that you said that your takings from the restaurant had gone down from $20,000 to $400.
Yeah, that's true.
It been absolutely devastating.
It was devastating. That's why I lost my home.
And you said that you feared losing your home.
Yeah, and I did.
They didn't follow up, but obviously you did.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Terrible thing.
Yeah, it is horrible.
You mentioned the court case. Now, what led you to initiate the proceedings? Were you asked to do that by third parties, or was that your own idea?
No, there was a lot of discussion about what was going on at the time. Nobody wanted to put their face to the argument, and I put my hand up and said, I will do this. Nobody asked me to do anything at the time. People were actually concerned that I was so freely saying yes to doing this.
Because I remember reading that I think one of the shadow ministers was very supportive.
A lot of them were.
I forgot his name.
Edward Donahue.
Yeah, he was very supportive.
He's from down here, so he was going through what we were going through.
And so was it a group of business people that decided just...
barristers.
Right.
Friends of mine who were highly intellectual, who I enjoy having lunch with, and I used to have lunch, we had lunch before, but it was just, we were so angry about what was going on, and not physically violent people, so we tried to resolve argument through argument.
Because the perception at the time was that the Liberal Party was really behind you in prosecuting the proceedings.
I've been a member of the Liberal Party for a very long time before, and I continue to be a member.
When did you join the Liberal Party?
My first Liberal Party meeting in official was when my husband was still alive, so it was a month before he passed away. And he wasn't a very political person. I have always been, was never a member per se, so it would have been 2018, I'm going to say March 2018.
And what attracted you to the Liberal Party rather than the Labor Party?
I think just...
Or the Greens?
No, just the mindset and the thinking. I don't agree with everything, I don't agree with any party 100%, but they mostly represented where I was in the world at the time.
And how were you received within the party? Because
initially, not, because I had had some other issues with another member of the party, and I needed some assistance here just before my husband had passed away, and I had asked my federal member, this is what got me into it, here we go, there was a federal member for Dunkley at the time who had taken over from Bruce Bilson, and I had gone to him and asked for assistance with a matter, and he refused to help me. Now the issue was with the visa of the chef I had at the time. My husband was on his deathbed and my chef was given the wrong visa at the time. I went to see a friend of mine who was a lawyer. He said, look, there is avenues. The only way you're going to get to it is through the Prime Minister. And he said, you'll never get to it. And I said, I will. He said, no, you won't. I said, I will. So Chris Kruger is the one who should have gone, refused to, berated me openly on social media, made me look like an absolute moron, and demeaned me in a way at the time when my husband was dying.
But why did he do that?
I don't know. He just didn't like me.
Right.
For no reason. I didn't know the guy before, and I'm still not friends with him after, but we didn't know each other. He refused to go to Alex Hawke at the time, who was the Home Affairs Minister. My lawyer said, if you can get to the Prime Minister, you'll get this done. So I prayed that night. So it was just, my husband passed in between. So 2 weeks after my husband died, Malcolm Turnbull, who was Prime Minister at the time, was going to be at Seafood Hotel. This is as mad as Calabrese get. And I woke up at 6 a.m. and it said 200 tickets to see Malcolm Turnbull speak at Seafood Hotel. Quick, get those 2 tickets. Rang my best friend at 7 a.m. We're going to go see Malcolm Turnbull. You're an idiot. What are you on about? You're just grieving. You know, calm down. You're off your head. No, I'm going to see him. We went and saw him on the Tuesday. So he was walking into the room. I said to my best friend, I'm going to go talk to him. And she said, no, you're not. I'm not going to talk to you. I walked straight up to Malcolm. I stuck my hand out and I said, Mr. Turnbull, my name's Michelle. My husband has just died and I need some help. And he said, he looked at me and he said, come and sit down. And he sat with me for half an hour while there was an entire room of people staring at us. And I spoke about what I needed to happen with this particular visa and that there was a legal path to assist my chef at the time. And Mr. Turnbull said, no worries, we'll help you out. Called Chris Kruger over, said, mate, get it in writing, help this girl out, she needs our assistance. And that's when I signed up to the party. There's the story.
It's not a story, it's a
yeah, that's what happened, so that's what led me to join the Liberal Party.
So the chef got his visa?
So we were able to find a legal path, and I was incessantly on the phone with Alex Hawke, just doing things I never imagined doing. And when I look at this, and I put these photos up for a reason, to remind me of where I came from. When I look at these photos of my grandparents on a donkey, and to know that I had the gumption to pull the Prime Minister up and say, can you help me? It's such a huge way away from where I'm from, and it's only one generation away. To be able to do that is a huge thing.
It is.
And
so that attracted you to the Liberal Party. Did you attend party meetings?
Yeah, I attended party meetings. So I live in Dunkley, so I went to the meetings there, and just the usual stuff of what's going on in the party.
And I read that you were going to stand for pre-selection in 2022.
Yeah, so
Did you do?
I didn't, and the reason I didn't is because there was still so much what's the word? I don't know. There was still so much animosity around my court case that I thought it